And going off of, oh, okay, just give me a second.
Okay. Take your time.
I'm okay, but this little termite isn't going to be.
Did you say termite?
I think it's a termite. It's like an ant with wings, right? So
An ant with wings?
yeah, so
You know ants come with wings sometimes, right?
not the whole crew, right? Like it's a special status, right?
Yeah. You're right. I think, yeah, you're right.
So this happens like every summer. Last summer around this time, the neighborhood was just like flooded with these. I think they're termites, to be perfectly honest, but they don't look exactly like how termites are drawn on the rate can, so I can't be sure if they're actually termites. But it's the closest one. Okay, so I actually wanted to ask you that question and follow up with a few other questions that would pry into your political preference without being so nosy. But since you just basically exposed it, I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions that are a little bit more direct. So,
Sure.
to be perfectly honest, my impression of the political parties most of the time is really just informed by what I read, because I really didn't see much of an impact on my own life when I was living in Toronto.
Sure.
Because I feel like I wasn't really involved in business, and nobody gave us free university, so no party really left a deep impression on me. So I saw someone frame the Liberals in a very positive light. The exact quote is that the Liberal Party, caters to a broad coalition of voters grouped on either side of the political center and committed to pragmatic, responsible, mildly progressive government.
Initial thoughts just off like that same, because I remember reading that as well in the article there. What this to me sounds like and what it feels like here is the Liberals are targeting everyone that hates Doug Ford and who Doug Ford can't take on board, right? Instead of strategizing on and targeting people and, you know what I mean, reaching out to them and building a platform, they're reaching for what kind of was spilled behind and hoping for the best, if that makes sense. They're going after healthcare. They're going after teachers, which sure, everyone knows they're against the PCs because of the funding cuts and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at the PCs, they're targeting specific unions. They got the steel workers, they got the this, they got that. And they're approaching people and negotiating with them versus going, hey man, you hate him too, right? Let's work together kind of thing. Does that make sense? It's like a very scattered platform and people feel it. You know what I mean? People don't trust it. People don't, you know what I mean? You were in power 15 years and then now all of a sudden everything kind of like fell apart and there's no real rhyme or reason as to the narrative that you're writing right now for people and your campaign, right? And even like Del Duca, he has like I've heard him talk a couple of times just because I was interested in it's going to sound funny, but just in his appearance, I'm like, okay, that's something that I could potentially see. He's another big bald guy. Like I was trying to see like what image is he like portraying and how he's kind of portraying kind of thing.
Lick his head?
I would. Why would I lick his head? Is my question. Is that a thing people want to do to bald people? Like, is that a fetish I should be afraid of?
I thought it's.
Or should I capitalize on it?
I thought it's a thing that bald guys did to each other when nobody's looking.
Why? Just to see like how smooth it is, like a power move. Like it's how you assert dominance. If I'm able to lick the top of your head, I'm bigger than you.
I'm 100% having a termite issue.
All good, all good.
Not good. Not good at all.
Is it
Not
two for
good.
two or is it one for two?
2 for 2, but where are they coming in from? That's the question because we've actually sealed off
Oh,
the
wow.
windows. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's usually it lasts for a day or so,
Hmm.
maybe two. But last year, like when I went to get raid, a couple. At first, I didn't know it was a couple. It was just a woman. She walked up beside me and she asked me, "Are you having issues with termites?" And I'm like,
Oh,
"Yep." And she's like, "What do you get?" I'm like, I started pointing to raid because I'm like, that's just the one I grew up on, right?
yeah.
And then from the corner of my eye, I saw a guy just like slowly creep up on me. I didn't pay much attention at first, but in mid conversation, I just like quickly turned to give him a look, and I see this guy giving me a death stare, while at the same time projecting like possession over the woman that's standing on my side. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to get raid. I'm not gonna back down, right? Because I'm just here to buy like bug spray, right? Anyways, what you said about the liberals, like, it's very consistent with what the quote says, but you cast it in a completely negative light because the way it's phrased, it really paints a picture of the liberals as being this model of moderation, mildly progressive government that can be read as being a positive, especially in this day and age where everyone's kind of stepping over each other to prove how progressive they are. Mildly progressive is actually, I would say, a mark of maturity. But the way you understood it was
Yeah.
like you just completely look past the rhetoric, and you see them as what conservatives would say who they really are, right? People without a platform, people without a position, because they're not as progressive as the NDPs. They're not as labor union friendly as the NDPs, but they're also not as conservative, right? And it's weird because it seems that the PCs have been moving into liberal or left of center territory in Ontario. So there doesn't seem to be a need for the liberals on the political spectrum because based on what I'm seeing, it seems like the PCs are moving into that territory. The liberals are not willing to go as far as the NDPs would, and if you really think about what they're, sorry, I just got distracted by something. But yeah, if you really think about the position they occupy on the political spectrum, it seems like there's a lot of overlap with other parties, especially since like NDP is the official opposition, right? So
Yeah. Provincial level. Yeah.
right, so I don't know. It seems pretty bleak.
It does. It does. And I guess like feedback or criticism that would be constructive towards their platform, if they were to hear me, would be to not be afraid to have backbone, man. Like just put your foot down on certain issues and really stand by them and allow that to kind of like just cause ripples and waves with the other elements of your platform. You know, like with NDP, for example, like they'll say certain things. I can't come up with a specific example right now without, you know what I mean? I have to go back and read, but they have certain issues that they've targeted with certain demographics, and it resonates with them, and they're able to like click it into place. Whereas with liberals, not only are they kind of like casting a wide net, they're casting that wide net in all kind of like dimensions. You know what I mean? So it's like, what is your like demographic? What is your like what population? What part of the province are you reaching? What are you know what I mean? I was reading the article, and it's like NDP have like a holding in like Southern Ontario in major cities and things like that, liberals have like a kind of spread throughout the province type thing. And I was actually surprised to hear Northern Ontario also has a lot of NDP seats secured as well, which, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of surprising for me to hear and listen out to, just because traditionally NDP, like as in, no, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, like it's just find your target and find your like audience again, and just listen to them and cater to them. Rebuild your base and then start kind of like casting that wide net. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like they have like a following anymore, if that makes sense, right?
What should they be looking
They've lost
for?
that. They've lost that core. I don't know. It depends on what they want to rebrand themselves as. So that's what I'm saying. First, you need to figure out your game plan. What is it that you're going to be standing for? What is it that you're going to be like pushing the narrative of? And then target the people that you think are going to be supporting you, be it students, be it young professionals, be it first-time home buyers, be it new immigrants, whatever you want to target. But like give them exactly what they need and bring them back on your team. You know what I mean?
What about bald guys who thinks that being called bald is akin
A
to
sexual harassment. Everyone's just angry and upset nowadays, man. Like, let me put it this way: I had this conversation actually a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. When quick little tangent, where people go like, "Oh, like that's great. Like you look great bald." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know I look great bald, but it's not a choice. People don't choose to shave their head. You know what I mean? You kind of come to terms with it, and you realize it's
Some
the best
people do.
option for you." That's a lie, man. Like unless it's
Some people do.
for a sport, unless it's for a sport, unless it's for a role, unless it's something. I don't think being bald and like having a shaved head is your first choice. If you had a full, nice, thick head of hair, I would argue. Maybe I'm speaking from like
Mm.
something that I don't have. You know what I mean? But I don't know.
I don't know, man, because
So many more options to than just like, you know.
I hear you, but some people do look better bald. So
I think I'm one of those people, if I'm being completely honest. Like, took me years to come to that realization, but I've gone back, looked at my pictures. Maybe it's like the aging and the maturity and the growing of my facial features as well. But I think I look better without hair now, and
Mhm.
I've
It's
come
very
to terms with
becoming.
it. Hopefully,
It's very
it doesn't.
becoming.
Yeah, thank you. I owe it all to you, man. You showed up, and the first thing you said is, "I look like a Palestinian smuggler, and you should probably shave my head because it's looking weird."
Human smuggler, because there was just like a touch
Human
of evil
smuggler, yes.
to the patches. I was like, well, let's go. Like, what type of man walk around like that? Someone who has.
Now I gotta go back and find a picture of that year. Like I'm confused. Like now I'm concerned as to what I was like walking around looking like. How many opportunities did I miss out on because of that?
I don't want to go that far, but you know how it is. Okay,
Yeah.
so what about these carjackings?
So that was I don't know if I couldn't find any articles on Globe and Mail
Mm-hmm.
or the National, if I'm being honest,
Mm-hmm.
which weren't from 2019, that wasn't reporting on these things. So over the past, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, it has been like Gotham City in Toronto. And I use that word specifically because I remember you describing Montreal as that
Mm-hmm.
when you had come over, and you were actually, and you used it in the context of being concerned that Toronto will eventually turn into that as well. It is, yeah, it was just like a long time ago we had this conversation. And you're like, if Toronto doesn't kind of like shape up and kind of develop a narrative, it'll kind of veer towards like the Montreal pathway of just being, you know what I mean, given up on and then moved on kind of thing. Um, I might be kind of like putting words in your mouth slightly there, but going back on the situation with the guns, there has been like violent carjackings. I remember reading in one night there was a Toyota Corolla 2012 stolen at gunpoint, another attempted robbery of a Lexus and the driver got away, like just hopped in the car and started driving. Another where like the woman was dragged, like GTA style, like literally dragged out of the car and then kind of ran off and all that. All teenagers, but obviously like fulfilling orders for like a larger operation because all these cars were being shipped through, again, the pathway is Oakville shipping containers to Montreal out through to like East African kind of East Asian markets.
East Asian
And
markets.
yeah, that was another surprising way. It was the article from there. So it was specific, yeah, East Asia and like East Africa, where they were sending the Toyotas and the Lexuses. And it has gone up again because there's no cars available. Like the car market has crashed as well in Canada, right? So due to the supply chain issues, the used car market and the new car market is completely drained of inventory. And
Hmm.
and then again, another reason for that is because any used car that becomes available in the market gets shipped to the US because it can be sold for significantly more. So you
Hmm.
have used car dealers buying out, you know what I mean, cars and things like that, shipping them down south for a profit. And manufacturers aren't fulfilling orders to Canada because they can't bump up the price. I have to look this up, but I remember there was some sort of a consumer protection clause in Canada for car prices. So they're
Hmm.
not allowed to sell it above a certain percentage of the manufacturing price. The US doesn't have that law. So, for example, a Toyota RAV4 could be sold here for a maximum of $40,000. There is no maximum down south. So Toyota is just fulfilling orders to the US and you know what I mean, reducing the shipments coming to Canada kind of thing. So all these things are stacking up, right? There's also like a lot of just like are you asking me to pause? Sorry.
I was trying to see if you're gonna notice. I just wanted to see how my fingers looked on camera. But go on.
I genuinely thought you were just asking me to like just slow down or pause for a second. Got you. So anyways, going back to the gun violence thing, there is serious carjacking. Like I'm worried for my mother, like because we had the car stolen just when was it? Yeah, May 2020 it was stolen. And it's a Toyota Highlander, literally the most sought after car to steal. And I'm worried because she like of the school she teaches at too, right? It's in an area where there has been a significant amount of these thefts occurring, kind of thing.
Mm.
So we went old school, man. You remember like those the steering wheel locks? I had to find the old one in the garage, cleaned it up, like oiled it up, put that in the car. And I told her, I'm like, Mom, like don't fight. Like if something happens, just slowly get out of the car, walk away. You know what I mean? Just use your charm to like make de-escalate the situation and just hand them the keys and just don't get shot. Like the car, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, but it's a
Word to the
serious issue,
wise.
man.
Word to the wise. Remember XXXTENTACION.
Exactly. May he rest in peace, man.
Of course.
Wait, wasn't he? I thought he was just shot up trying to buy a bike.
No,
I
no,
didn't
no.
realize he was.
He was trying to fight back when they tried to take
Oh,
his car.
oh, interesting.
Hmm. Shot
Oh,
at,
yeah.
shot up while trying to buy bike. What are you
I swear
talking?
to God, like he was in a motorcycle shop and then he got shot up. Like I remember reading something like
I
that.
think it
No?
was in a car shop and car
Okay.
dealership or something of that nature. But somebody was
Hmm.
trying to take a bag of cash from his back seat, if I remember
Oh,
correctly, and they were also trying to take his car, and he fought back, and he was killed in the
yeah.
ensuing struggle. So word to the wise. Um, that's so. What's the solution to this?
I that's why I asked that too. Is where this whole handgun, you know what I mean, ban and all these things and carjackings, teens arrested, all that stuff. Is this like a generation, young generation, like community generation, kind of funding cuts from schools and things like that, leading to this? Ford cut these things 4 years ago, and now we're seeing the kind of results of that, where elementary school kids, high school kids are at the age of, you know what I mean, running in the streets and committing these kind of crimes and things. Is there a direct correlation to that, or is this a gun problem? Is this, you know what I mean? What are the factors at play here, and what are we not addressing right now, right? Because it feels like there was a surge all of a sudden out of nowhere, right? For a country that claims to have a high amount of immigrant population and traditionally, again, I'm not going to kind of use a blanket term here, traditionally, immigrant families have had a stronger family unit, stronger kind of like core moral principles, guiding principles to raise their young and everything like that. But how are we in a place where we got ats running over in the streets with, I'm at home worried, you know?
I feel like you're being very presumptive because there are media outlets out there trying to draw a correlation between the influx of Ukrainian refugees and what's been happening. However, I would like to direct your attention over to a thread on Reddit called Torontology if you're particularly interested in whatever you just said. I'm not going to repeat it. So, do you think guns are the problem?
That's a loaded question in itself, isn't it? Well, yeah. At the end of the day, a bullet comes out of a gun and kills someone, right? Someone could say that someone pulled the trigger, but it goes by. There was a clip I saw after the shooting down south on actually a Reddit thread about the Australian Prime Minister and his ban, his nationwide gun ban after the incident in Tasmania, where the gentleman went on a mass killing spree and just killed, I think, what was it, 30, 40 people.
We're calling people who go on a mass killing spree gentlemen now?
The man, the mentally unstable man, he wasn't even a white supremacist. He was just like a white dude Australian guy whose parents got wronged and he felt the world was wronging him and he went and shot people up, not justifying his actions. I don't know why this suddenly turned into me supporting mass shooters and calling them gentlemen, but the clip, the voice clip soundbite from the Australian Prime Minister that stood out to me was he was saying how people have such moments in life where they make stupid decisions, where they're upset, where they're excited, where they're whatever it is, and you go and you make a stupid decision. If you have a knife available to you, that stupid decision can end at 2 people dying. But if you have an assault rifle next to you, you just go around spraying people and that number amplifies, right? Again, I'm not quoting exactly the words he's saying, but you understand the sentiment behind it.
Have any guns been recovered from these crime scenes? Have any of these people been captured?
That's the thing. The ones who did get caught, they were BB guns.
Right.
Exactly. So
how are guns
this isn't a gun problem. That's exactly that's my point, where the major question of are guns a problem? Yes. But in this specific situation, guns have not been a problem. And even if they have been, it's not the legally owned guns, because I was actually reading up on how to, if I want to get a handgun in Canada, how do I go about that? 2 exams, by the RCMP, daily, what is it called? Criminal record checks, and you have to, I think, register the gun with the RCMP, even if it's a private sale. If you want to remove the gun from your home, you have to kind of notify an agency before you move it to a gunsmith or any specific gun ranges. So you know what I mean? It's a very tightly regulated system already. So what are you doing? You know what I mean? Adding a headline glamorous blitz heading of, we're banning handguns and providing an optional buyback program, blah, blah, blah. When the issue is the illegal guns being brought forward, and I was reading about it, I didn't realize there was drones dropping off guns across the border and, you know what I mean, pouring out things like that. There's nothing being done to address that. And there's nothing being done to address the people and the kids that are using.
What are we supposed to do?
Commit
Patrol the borders with predator drones?
Build a wall is what I'm saying. No.
I don't think that would stop drones.
That was a joke.
And I don't think there's anything we could do about that, in the sense of how can you intervene in the affairs of a country that holds its gun rights so dearly? And, I think it's difficult. Right. And I think it's difficult for people who did not grow up in a gun culture to discuss the value of having guns versus not having guns. Personally, I'm unfamiliar with guns. I had BB guns when I was a kid, and it brought me a lot of joy, and I really miss those days because we can no longer buy BB guns anywhere, right? So I can only imagine if I had grown up shooting real guns the way I feel about gun ownership, right? So
Yeah.
if guns are the issue, regulation is probably the best way to deal with it. Prohibition rarely works with mostly everything. Not to say that it definitely won't work, but it seems that guns are not the problem here.
No.
Right?
And that's the thing. There has to be focus put back on community initiatives, you know what I mean? Like education systems. I'll give you a specific
You would
example.
think that these high school or middle school age kids would be super mellowed out with all the edible options and, legally available cannabis and delivery too, right? So what are they on, right?